you want to connect with audiences and tell them stories, and you did it in Missing by having the father lose his child.
Yes.
While playing hide and seek
At a playground that you
at
take
a
your
playground
children
that
to.
I take my kids to.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I hope it haunts you.
And it's actually hard to do for an undergraduate to get into the middle-aged professor's head and say, this is what's going to bug you, Higgins.
Well, I'm glad it worked a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if I was ever drawn, I think what I was excited about at Wesleyan was the fact that you were exposed to all these different types of movies. So I was watching Westerns and melodramas and action films and foreign films and classic Hollywood movies and silent movies. And you're exposed to all this stuff, but there's no sense of prejudice, really, and there's no sense of one type of movie being of any more value than another type of movie. And it was just about, does the movie work? Is it telling the story that it's setting out to tell? Is it connecting with the audience? Is it making you laugh if it wants to make you laugh? And is it scaring you if it wants to scare you? I remember going to Janine's office and I think we had like a 40-minute talk about Spy Game, the Robert Redford,
there you go,
Brad Pitt movie. And the fact that I could sit in the chair of the film department's office and talk about Spy Game for 40 minutes made me feel like this was the right place for me.
Long time on Spy Game.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to discuss. Yeah. It's nonlinear storytelling and stuff.
True. So, but you do, I mean, you have standards. You know Cobra is no shadow of doubt.
Yes, no. I think there are standards. You look at, but
Cobra, you can appreciate Cobra.
You can appreciate Cobra, and you can appreciate what works in it, or you can, compare a Cobra to, I don't know, some other stuff. You can compare a Cobra to Nighthawks and compare it to Cliffhanger. Just go through the whole kind of Stallone career. Yeah, the greatest
Oscar
hits. And talk about which ones work and which ones don't and why they're working. And I just think that I like that I could take a class with you, and at the beginning of the class, we'd be watching, old Douglas Fairbanks movies like you were talking about, or we'd be watching, a pirate movie with Errol Flynn or something. And then at the end of the class, we'd be writing a paper on Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, you said that was the last essay you ever wrote in your undergraduate career.
What was it? I remember there's a Pirates of the Caribbean, and there was a Spider-Man one too. I think I wrote a paper on at some point in your class.
I gave an in-class test.
Yeah, that could have been.
Because I don't want you to have open note for that.
No, that could have been.
And you knew you made it. So where did you go from there? I know you went to the AFI and you did the directing.
I did. Well,
program.
first I took a year off and moved to New York with all my friends. Yes. And I was from New York and worked for a producer, which was great because it was a producer who's doing very different types of movies than the movies I kind of wanted to do. She had started at Focus, and her name's Amy Kaufman, and she was doing, she had just started her company, and they were doing she had produced Y Tu Mama Tambien and Lost in Translation and Constant Gardener. And I was working there and just reading tons of scripts and writing coverage. And then I did that for like a year, and then I applied to AFI, to the directing program. Right. And drove out here.
What did you learn from reading coverage?
Writing coverage?
Because that seems to be
writing coverage is great. It's like I think you learn how, because at Wesleyan you're thinking of at Wesleyan you're generally not reading tons of professional finished screenplays. You're more looking at the films, or you're reading kind of theory and analysis. But if you're interested in either writing screenplays or directing screenplays, you can't really do it unless you read lots and lots of screenplays and start kind of taking them apart and figuring out what works and what doesn't. And while coverage is irritating to write, and it can be very kind of time-consuming, I guess. Yeah. On the great benefit of it is it forces you to really engage with the script, and it forces you to think about kind of all those different elements that are at play. Yeah. And it forces you to just read tons of scripts. So I probably read, I don't know, 100, 200 scripts over the course of that year.